Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Liz Live Show. I am Liz Statlander, and good morning and happy Saturday on this beautiful Saturday morning down here in Miami or wherever in the world you may be watching from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So much to talk about today. And, before we get into our topic, which if you happen to catch any of the advertisements for today's show or the promos, we're talking about online dating, online relationships, and social media, which goes into the category of online relationships. And is that ruining intimacy and meaningful relationships? And what kind of experiences have people had that have been, really disappointing dating online? Dating online's not for everyone. While some people, definitely have success with it, others do not. And we're going to talk all about that. I have real live stories from real live viewers who have written on to tell me about their stories. And I think it's such a big topic because all the reasons that we're going to talk about today. But before we get into talking about, how, crappy some people can be, in today's world, I wanted to just share a brief story that to me talks about, just shows a little bit of goodness in people, which I think, it's good to open up this show talking about, what's good about people, because we're going to be talking about some stuff that's not so good about people. But the other day, I went downtown Miami, like very South Miami, to get a boxing lesson with Orlando, who you guys probably saw, on my show last week. We did a great interview. It was so much fun on the show. And so I went down to do some boxing with Orlando, and I was exhausted after the workout. And I was carrying all my stuff, and I think my arms were weak and, whatever, just from, doing such a hard workout. And I dumped by accident. I dropped my cell phone down a sinkhole, and there was nothing I could do about it. I mean, my nephew was with me. We tried calling it. I mean, it was so far down there. The phone was gone. And, and speaking of online relationships, I would say that these phones are just, our whole lives are on them. So I thought, oh my God, all my contacts, oh my gosh, my thing, what am I going to do? I dropped it down a sinkhole. So I call Sprint and I try to get things situated. I've been with them for 17 years and they were really not helpful. So I happen to have a client sitting here in this very office with me after 3 hours on the phone with Sprint. And she said, hey, I have a relative who works for AT&T, and we'll get you your new phone. Everything will be done like that. And I'm like, are you serious? Because Sprint was telling me it was going to be days before they could get a phone to me and da, 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 da. And sure enough, these people went out of their way to help me. And this angel shows up at my door with phones in hand. I transferred all my service over to AT&T, and they helped me. And I got this new phone the same day. And pretty much, thankfully, I had most of my contacts on my iPad. I'm missing some things, but the kindness of people. This woman sat for 4 hours right here in this office with me. 4 hours. She was here till 11 o'clock at night, and she has children and a life, and she did that for me, and she did that for business. And it gave me a sense of hope that there are still good, kind people out there who do work hard and do take their customers seriously. It might be a little bit harder to find them, but they're out there. And that made me feel really good. And I wanted to share that there are still people who do care and people who will work with you and help you through as a customer, as a friend. And so I think all the people involved, from my client to her relative to the lovely woman who came here and, helped me. And I think that is a perfect segue into today's topic, because I think the topic is, you know, more than just online and internet dating. It's the difference between live, in person, human interaction versus the interaction that happens over the phone, over computer, over the filter or the guise of social media. And the stories and the issues that we're going to be talking about today with online dating, and some of the unfortunate hurt it can bring and frustration it can bring, and how it's changing the face of relationships. As we talk about that, I think that one of the morals of the story is that we need to remember how important human interaction is. And in a time where, COVID has changed the way of the world, in a time where masks are standing in the way or have stood in the way of human interaction, these computers, social media, and I'm not saying it's all bad. I use it. We all use it. But there's nothing like being together in person. There's nothing like dating in person. And the online dating scene and the online availability of other people to date and social media in general, I think, is causing a major problem and a major issue. And that's what we're getting into. So I got onto this, and I also think this is a perfect topic to sort of piggyback off of Wednesday night's conversation, which, if you haven't seen Liz Live Wednesday night, I would definitely say go back and watch it, because it's all about this very topic of intimacy and relationships and what makes long-term relationships work. And I think that this is just a great piggyback off of that, and our discussion with Hall of Fame boxing trainer Orlando before that. So I get some mail, and I keep saying mail. I mean, it's not like I'm getting, U.S. postal letters from people, but I get a lot of emails from people through Facebook and social media. And I had a really compelling, 2-pager that came in from a viewer last week. And he had a really, really good point. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but I want to say, he's somewhere in my age range, which I'm 45. I want to say he's maybe, I don't know, 50, maybe 55. I don't know how old he is. But he wrote me this beautiful note about his views and how social media, or social online dating and social media, has, sort of devastated him and his daughter in some of their relationships. And the point that I think he was trying to make is that when he was growing up, if you wanted to go on a date with somebody, you had to ask them in person. And for me, I remember more so either being asked in person or calling the house, which in those days, there were no cell phones. So if you called someone's house, you had to talk to their parents. The parents answered, which means you had to show some respect to the parents who answered the phone and have proper manners and ask if you could please speak to, whoever it was that was, answering the phone. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. Statlander. Is Elizabeth there, please? Nice to talk to you. And if you didn't greet parents like that, I mean, you weren't going to be allowed to go out on a date with them. It's that simple. And there was this knowing of people in the community and a feeling of safety, because people had to look each other in the eye. They had to look at, someone in the eye to ask them out. Okay. You had to show up at the doorstep and pick up a woman and go up to the door, ring the doorbell and say, hello, Mrs. Statlander, I'm here to pick up Elizabeth. That just doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen anymore. And it's all done through these. Okay. It's all done through the computer. And there's such a big difference. So if you had to look at someone in person to ask for a date or call the parents and show up at the door to get a date with somebody that you wanted to go out with, then if you wanted to end the relationship, it had to be done in a similar way. You had to sit down and face the person and say, "Hey, I don't think this is working out." And when I was growing up, it would have been completely unacceptable to break up with someone any other way than in person. Maybe over the telephone, but not usually. We would we would always face each other. We would always face each other and have that human interaction. And the more and more that human interaction disappears, the further and further we get away from intimacy and closeness, true intimacy and closeness. And I think the more and more lonely we actually feel. And all the things that I'm describing really don't exist anymore. I mean, let's be real, they don't exist. And so what my viewers wrote into me is that, hey, I was dating this woman for 8 or 9 months or something like that, and she just disappeared with a one-liner, I don't want to see you anymore, in a text. And he was just heartbroken and didn't understand how somebody could have such little respect for the relationship that they did have together by not talking about it in person and saying, hey, this is what I'm feeling and this is why I don't want this relationship anymore. And she just vanished with a one-liner. And that really leaves the person on the other side it completely confused, right? Completely confused, completely lost, and feeling like they never even really mattered. And that, my friends, is the way it works today. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Okay. Another story. Young woman, lovely young woman dating a young man about college age, and they were together for 8 months, a year, something like this. And everything was great between the boy and the girl, and suddenly he ends the relationship with a one-line text message, and then within a few hours is seen online with another girl that he's in a relationship. So what does that say about us as a culture, where we're going and how we're treating people? And are we teaching our kids that this is okay? That behavior is okay? Now, I could argue those stories in a couple different ways. On one hand, I could say that what online dating does at this point is it brings out the worst in people really, really quickly. So better to know earlier than later what this person is really made of. Because if social media didn't exist, there were still, back before social media, there were still people who would run away, right? And abandon the family, and they would disappear, or there were still affairs going on. It just went down in a different way. It wasn't so easy to get away with that bad behavior, but it still happened. It still went on. But I think social media and internet dating has ramped up the worst qualities in people. I think it is taking away bit by bit by bit. It's eating away at human relationships, eating away at intimacy. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And I think it's eating away at common courtesy and manners, that you have no respect for someone that you dated, or really you have no respect for yourself. It's really a reflection of how you feel about you. You don't have the honor and the self-respect to pick up the phone and sit down for coffee or lunch with the person you've been dating for 8 or 10 months and say, hey, I'm just not feeling this relationship for whatever reason. And, maybe through the conversation, you could find out that maybe you could patch it up. But if nobody's talking, you're never going to know. You would never know. So we are ruining intimate conversation and manners and decency because social media and online dating makes it so easy to be a coward and so easy to not look people in the eye and say what you think and say what you mean. And texting the same thing. There are divorces, couples who I see that have been married for 20 years that are divorcing through a text. And it's normal now. It's normal, and it shouldn't be normal. And why is human interaction, face to face interaction, so important to me? It's really important to me. And it should be important to you in all of your relationships. Why it's important is because when you have to look at somebody in the eye and you have to maybe break their heart, or you have to, learn how to express how you really, really feel, you build character. You become a developed human being. You develop empathy and skills for communication and everything good. Whereas when you are shooting a text message, I'm not interested in this relation anymore, send. There's no growth, there's no evolution, there's no face to face. You don't sit and feel what the other person is feeling. And it's just it's leading our I think it's leading our country into a time and place that is very, very bad. Very bad. We're taking the human element out of relationships. And once you take the human element out of relationships, you're done. Okay. There are, in certain countries in Asia, intimacy is so far gone there that they have places where you can actually go and pay to cuddle with somebody because they're that deprived of intimacy. So rather than actually put the time and emotion and effort into a real relationship, you just work, and you can pay for sex and you can pay for a cuddle. And then what? And then you have no emotional responsibility. You have no connection to other human beings. And that is so sad to me. So sad to me. Of course, I'm a relationship counselor. It could never be happy for me. It could never be good for me to hear something like that. So, okay. So we know that online dating through social media, if you want to meet someone now, you throw some disgusting text, through social media. Oh, hey baby. I like your smile. This is how we're meeting each other, I mean, and listen, there's a part of it, there's a small percentage that it works. There are people who have met online and they wind up getting married. And there are people who have met online and it works out. But if I had statistics, which I don't, I think it's going to become fewer and fewer between, because I think that in the beginning, it was online dating and internet dating was a vehicle of which to meet people to have a real relationship with, where now it has become a vehicle to actually destroy all of the developmental qualities that are developed through dating and real relationships. So now, online dating and social media cuts through all of that, and you can filter your pictures. And a lot of my clients say they go to date these people that they think are attractive online, and then what shows up is something completely different, because there's so many beauty filters and so much stuff you can do to make yourself look younger or look different, that you're not even putting your real self out there. And we are creating a society of narcissists with our beauty filters and our, likes and our relationships all through electronic medium, technology. And I don't think technology was meant for relationships. I think it's great with medicine. It does great things. I think it does wonderful things for travel and, being connected all over the world, but it doesn't do much good for relationships. Okay. Now, another big issue that stems out of internet and social media dating, of course, is online cheating and online pornography. And this goes beyond what my viewers wrote in, who had these experiences where they had these intense, beautiful relationships, and they were broken up with, one line text messages that are cold, inhuman, and just plain old rude, right? Just no reflection on my viewers, reflection on the people in which my viewers had dated. And perhaps these instances brought to the forefront the true character of what they were really actually working with, but faster. So it's a positive way of looking at it. And thank God. Okay. It ended early. It doesn't erase the heartache that they went through, but at least, it wasn't 20 years later or something. Imagine that. Okay. So we have that. And then we have this other issue of, okay, so there's so many people that are available to date now because of technology, because of social media and online dating, that it feels like there's no boundaries anymore, right? That, and I've seen this personally. I've seen in my circle of friends, and I've seen in my clientele, um, married people flirting with other married people on Facebook, Instagram, Snap, all these different social media outlets. And because we have so many open, I would say open avenues of which to pursue extramarital affairs and relationships that we didn't have before, it's very, very difficult to keep that in line and keep that in check, because it's natural to maybe, always find other people attractive besides your husband or wife. I mean, come on, it's normal. But to actually have an opportunity to pursue that was never available until about 10 years ago or so, at least for my generation, right? But now you can, take a naked picture and send it wherever you want. And you can get a response. Or if you're a guy and you're miserable in your marriage, all you have to do is go onto social media and, friend a pretty girl and send her a message, and she might just respond to you, right? Because there's so many lonely people in the world that the internet and technology is just, opening this avenue for people, instead of to really work through what it is that they're feeling and that they're experiencing with their own partners. It's very easy to just go right outside the relationship and flirt online and have some sex chat or sexting or whatever. And before you know it, you're cheating. And even if it's not physical cheating, it's still cheating, because you're being sexually inappropriate with another person via technology. And to me, that is cheating. That is crossing boundaries, because there are no boundaries anymore, right? Back in the day, if you wanted to cheat, you had to really figure out how that was going to work, because everyone knew everyone in your neighborhood and there was gossip, and, your neighbor would see you in the corner bar, flirting around with another woman, and then tell your wife or tell your husband. And, you just couldn't get away with it. Not like today. Today, it's like a free for all. And it is destroying the fabric of intimate relationships, of everything that we talked about on Wednesday evening, all the things that make intimacy, all the things that make relationships meaningful, friendship, companionship, working on your sex life together. You're bored with your sex life, you can turn on porn in about 5 seconds, right? Right here, right? 1, 2, 3, porn video. It's that easy. So instead of going to your partner and saying, "Hey, you know what? I think we need to work on our sex life. I think that, I'm feeling kind of disconnected to you, and, how do you feel? And let's see what we can do to make it work together. And let's see." No, everyone just goes the easy route. Online porn, right? I stumbled upon a very disturbing website a few months ago via a friend of mine down here in Miami, and it's called seekingarrangements.com. Seekingarrangements.com. And seekingarrangements.com is a sugar daddy, sugar baby website. Now, you might be thinking, if you're my age, what the hell is that? Okay. I had no idea. So apparently, what it is it's a website where if you are a man, because it didn't say sugar mama, it said sugar daddies. If you are a man who's willing to pay, a chunk of money every month to, a particular female in exchange for sex, I don't know, a blowjob. I really don't know because I didn't, look deep into it. I don't know exactly how it goes. So I might be wrong about some of it, but you can have a sugar baby. Okay. And a sugar baby is the girl who's going to accept your cash payment and return you the favor with whatever, escorting you or having sex with you so many nights a week. And they're not allowed to ask for anything more than this arrangement. And the men, the sugar daddies, are allowed to have 4 sugar babies, right? So, the women, I don't think we're allowed to have some sugar babies, but the sugar daddies can have 4 women, up to 4 women through seekingarrangements.com where they can have this arrangement. And, so you could have an arrangement with one guy and he's going to have a couple arrangements with some other women too. And all, upfront exchange of services, if you will. And, you know, it's it's really just prostitution in my view. It's just a way of getting around and making it like legalized prostitution. And, a lot of people would disagree with me and they would say, well, it's up front. If people are up front and this is what they want and they're consenting adults, what's the big deal? And, touche, if that's what you're looking for, who am I to say? But personally, as a relationship therapist and a person who is always looking to build meaningful relationships and help others build meaningful relationships, this is the antichrist of what I do. This just slices through everything that makes romantic relationships what they are, and makes them meaningful and joyful and important and evolving and thriving and all of that human stuff that is not always particularly easy. It just takes it all out. And to me, it's for cowards, because people who use those um things, they'll avoid intimacy at any cost. They don't want to put themselves out or compromise their time or their feelings or their emotions in any way. So they can sign up for this website, and we're right into developing a power and control situation that has no love, no meaning. And again, I'm sure there's people out there who have done it that could totally argue the other side of the issue. And I'm open to hearing that. I'm always open to hearing other views. But again, as a relationship, as someone who spends her career helping relationships become more meaningful and deeper, more joyful, more rewarding, thriving, growing, developing, that type of situation online that's happening more and more and more. And supposedly seekingarrangements.com is not the only thing, the only one that's out there. We're little by little destroying the things that make intimacy meaningful. So we take the story from, my viewers who were watching and wrote me in about being, just cut off or ghosted, I believe they call it. Ghosted, when someone just has been dating you and they just disappear. They just ghost you. They just leave you without any words. And leave the other person on the other side just feeling horrible. Like you never meant anything to this person to begin with, And again, that poor behavior is not a reflection of my viewers who wrote. It's a reflection of those people who behaved in that way, that didn't have the goodwill, that didn't have the character, that didn't have the morals to, sit and talk with my viewers and explain why they wanted out of the relationship or what they were struggling with in the relationship. And can we make this better? According to the information that I received, of course. And it's hurtful. And young girls are having their very first, dating experiences today in 2021 ending by having their boyfriends disappear and hook up with another woman behind their back and then parade it all over social media. So on the back end, not only are we destroying relationships, are we destroying intimacy and human connection through technology, we are also creating a generation of young women who really don't like themselves, who struggle and feel as though they're competing against every other woman in the world with a filtered photo, okay? Who are constantly anxious that they're going to be left for another girl who might be a little bit prettier or have a sexier Instagram photo than they do. And it creates a very insecure, very anxious young woman. And I don't think it's necessarily different for young men either. I mean, let's look at that. Women can do the same thing today that men can do. Anyone can do it, right? So I should rephrase what I just said earlier and say that we are creating a culture and a generation of anxious people, period, that have no stability in relationships whatsoever. That, if someone should post a sexier, prettier picture or, a more handsome picture than what you have, that you might go after it and you might just say, well, that's a better looking person. I want that. Right. Because let's face it, online dating and social media has become window shopping. It's window shopping, right? You just look in the window and you see pictures of what people look like. You don't know anything about them. And don't forget, those pictures are filtered upon filter. I mean, I'm surprised at some of the filters they have. I mean, I don't get how they work, but they work, And so, where does this leave us? Where does this leave us as a community? Where does this leave us as a country, as an American culture? And I can tell you, it's going to leave us in the shit can. That's where it's going to leave us when it comes to romance and intimacy. And relationships will never look again like they once did. For better, for worse. I think mostly for worse. So, okay, so for the past half an hour, I've complained about it. I've bitched about it. I'm upset about it as a relationship, aficionado, if you will, someone who believes in relationships, human relationships, in person and live relationships. I believe in that. I believe in those things. I spend my whole life trying to help other people cultivate those relationships. So where does this leave us? And where does this leave me as a relationship therapist? And what can we do about it? What can we do about it? I don't want to just identify a problem and then just walk away from it. Let's talk about what can we do about this? Boy, that's a big cookie to eat and swallow. So I'm going to put out some ideas and I'd love to hear from you guys if you have any ideas about this. So I think the first thing we can do is we can talk to our children who may be, going through some of this and talk to them about, how we used to do things. And it's hard for them to imagine. I try to talk to some of my younger clients and I'm like, guys, I didn't have one of these until I was 26 years old. Can you imagine? Not till I was 26 years old did I have my own cell phone. I think we had pagers, or something. And the only reason I had a cell phone at 26 was I worked for Fox News at the time in Pittsburgh, and they gave us cell phones to use for work, but it wasn't actually mine, right? And I got my first cell phone when I moved down to Florida, and my mother got it for me, because she wanted to be able to reach me because I was moving out of town. I didn't know how to text until I was probably 27, 28 years old. And I didn't get onto social media and probably really until, oh my gosh, maybe 2007 or 8, maybe 12 years ago. So I think we have to talk to our kids about what life was like before cell phones and share with them what our dating experiences were before cell phones. And maybe they're going to go, oh, mom, dad, Anna Lizzie, I don't want to hear this, but too bad. You're going to listen to it. And I think it's up to us who are the parents, who are the leaders of, the family and leaders of our communities and leaders of our country to use the platform that we have, the social media platform that we have, to get a message out and say, hey, this is not dating. This is not dating, talking to a phone. No. Mm-mm. You can use this to get to know people. You can use it perhaps as a safety, like, okay, I'm going to talk on the phone a couple times until I get a sense that this person would be safe to have lunch with or meet them for coffee. But I'm not going to send sexy pictures of myself through the internet to a stranger. I'm not going to approach someone that I find attractive or interested by sending a picture of my genitals to them. Okay. And I'm not going to treat other people that I'm attracted to like sex objects. And I think that's part of what the internet dating and social media dating has done, is that people, not only is it removing intimacy, but it's downgrading us from human to sex object. That's it. We went from human beings that had other aspects of self to share with people through the dating process, getting to know people, to a sex object or an object of what can I get for myself out of this person, right? What is their social media status? How much money do they have? What do their pictures look like? And we're building on top of everything else I've been talking about. We're also building a generation not only of anxious kids, of women, young girls who hate themselves. And I have plenty of proof of that from working with young children for the last 15 years of what they say. I've had shows with plastic surgeons, with Dr. O'Toole, talking about body image and self-image of women today because of social media. So we have a group of women who are insecure, anxious, and do not understand relationship stability. Young men who do not understand that relationship building is not throwing out one-liners to someone's direct, messages on Facebook and Instagram, or snapping a picture of their penis and saying, what do you think? I mean, this is objectifying people, and it's destroying intimacy, which is the friendship, the companionship. And I think the decency, the manners, right? If you can break up with somebody who you've been dating for 10 months, with a one-line text, what does that say about you? That you couldn't have met them for coffee or even a phone call, for Christ's sake, a phone call might have been better than just a one-line text, right? That's what cowards do, and it's making cowards out of us. What happened to eye contact? What happened to handshaking? What happened to sitting across from somebody at a dinner table and, having to decide what you're going to talk about for an hour? Nope, not anymore. Lunch date, coffee date, on the go, blah, blah, blah. We run through life. We run through life and we're all becoming anxious, attention deficit disordered, and objectifying each other instead of the full package of the person. What can I get from this person? What can I get rather than what can I give? What can I learn from? How can I evolve as a result of? And human decency has gone by the wayside because we don't have to make that eye contact and feel the other person's hurt feelings and look at them and then reflect upon that and then grow from that. We just pick up the phone. I don't want to see you anymore. Send, block, bye. And then we just go on. It's almost making us become sociopathic in a sense. It's almost sociopathic, right? Avoid emotion. Avoid eye contact. And you know what? Better yet, I'm horny. So you know what? I can just pull up some good porn. And so what if my wife is in the bed next to me or my husband's, downstairs? I'm going to do it anyway because I can, because I want to, because it's easier for me to invest myself in pornography because there is no investment. There's no investment. Let's get that very clear. Pornography requires zero, nothing. You turn it on, you get your deed done, you turn it off. No investment. It doesn't even cost money anymore. It's just free. It's out there everywhere, all over the place. No emotional investment, no emotional responsibility. And it keeps you from going to your husband or wife and saying, hey, we need to work on our sex life. Do we need to go to therapy? Can we just talk about it? What do we need to do to spice it up? We've been together for 10 years or 4 years and we're bored. And, we want to spice it up. We're using technology to solve all of our problems. And again, there are good things that come with technology. There are beautiful parts of technology when it comes to communication, travel, medicine, healthcare, all those things that it's good for. But bad side, very bad for relationships, marriages, anything that requires meaningful relationships, meaningful work on oneself or on one's relationship. Objectification of the human being, right? Seeking arrangements. I don't need to deal with intimacy. I don't need to deal with feelings. I don't need to deal with responsibility. I don't need to deal with reality. I can just, humans, I'll just pay $1,000 a month and, get laid a couple times. Then I can just lay in bed and eat my ice cream and go to sleep. And I don't have to move or change my life for another person for any reason. No emotional investment whatsoever. And what I would also recommend, what can we do about this? Because I keep ranting about the topic, but what can we do about this? Is I think that we have to be able to say, wow, Liz is right. Okay. It's not that you have to agree with me. Okay. That's not my point, but she's making some good points. Okay. Because the points that I'm making here are just real. They're just reality. Like it or not, take it or leave it. It's just the way it is. You know it and I know it. Okay. So what can we do about it beyond teaching our children what it was like before social media and online dating, before window shopping and swiping? Okay, before all that, what did we have to do? Hey, kids, learn how to say hello, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so is, may I pick up your daughter and take her to dinner? I promise I'll have her back. Teach your sons and daughters to give a firm handshake to adults and to look them in the eye and say please and thank you. and understand that kids their age are not objects. We are not objects. No matter what is around us in our environment, we are still human beings. That will never change. We have emotions and feelings and a soul. We can't just constantly objectify other people so that we don't have to feel things, right? So I think we have to teach that to our kids. We have to be role models for them. And then as adults, there's when we're single, we're faced with the same issues, except it's like being in the twilight zone for us because we don't know what the heck is going on here because it's not how we grew up. So it's really confusing for people my age and up to navigate the online dating world because some adults get really into it. I know I've seen 55, 6-year-old women, strutting their stuff and posing with online pictures and filters and all kinds of stuff to get male attention. I see it all the time. And I see men doing it. I see men now taking pictures of selfies with their, six packs and this and and trying to gain attention. And I don't think that we're setting when we the adults are doing it. I don't think it sets a good example for the kids. Right? And so I think that we need to talk about it. We need to teach our children. We need to set the example. And I also think that if it happens to us, if we get ghosted or, we get dumped for the next best picture on Instagram or the next best filtered selfie on Facebook or whatever, that we can call people out for it. We can do that. My earliest story that one of my clients so beautifully shared with us about, being broken up with after 10 months of an intense relationship through a single text message. I think that we can kind of say to them, like, I'm this is like extremely hurtful that you would do this. We can be vulnerable even though they can't. You really left me feeling like I didn't ever matter to you. And it's hurtful. Because if we don't say those things to people, then we let them get away with their bad behavior and they will do it over and over and over again. And of course, there's no guarantee that if you do make yourself vulnerable to those people, that they will care. We don't know. That's not really why we're doing it, but we're doing it for ourselves. We do it because it helps us grow and it helps us thrive because every bad situation that happens to us can be flipped around into a learning experience for us if we will so have that, if we will open our head and our hearts to learning from these things. It's amazing. It's amazing. I feel so sad and scared for the upcoming generations because I don't know what relationships are going to look like. Are we going to, is monogamy even going to be something treasured anymore? And I think monogamy is important, not that if you choose not to be monogamous, not that you're wrong or bad. I don't believe that to be true. I believe people should do whatever works for them. But as a general value in this country, marriage and monogamy are sacred values in the way that they force us to evolve and grow and fight and struggle and work to survive. And that's what life is about. All I think that all this stuff says when it comes to relationships is that we're becoming more and more afraid to be intimate. We're becoming lazier and lazier about self-improvement and growth. And and that we are becoming more and more fearful of facing ourselves, of who we really are, right? I mean, when's the last time any of us took a picture of us for a dating site or an online presence that wasn't in some way enhanced or filtered? I mean, I'm not even sure you can do it anymore because these beauty filters are built into the camera. So even if you take a picture and you don't mean to do any changes or filter, I think it does it for you automatically now, if I'm not mistaken, most of them. So, I mean, what does that say? So from the gentleman who wrote into me about being broken up with, to the young girl who was broken up with after 10 months of a relationship at 22 years old in a one-line text message, and then the next day saw her boyfriend in a relationship with another woman right on social media, right in front of her, with no explanation. We are creating a culture of hurt people, anxious people, people who can never feel safe in relationships. And we have to learn how to put some boundaries up on social media. And I know some young people who are just taking social media, off their phones completely. And I think that we can also decide, how are we going to use social media? And we can say to ourselves, I'm going to use social media to, you know, um, keep in contact with friends and family, to, engage with other people, but I'm not going to make any dating scenarios, um, based on social media. I'm going to make sure that I meet everybody in person in a safe way, of course. Or if you don't feel safe meeting someone, that should be a good sign to you that you never meet them in person. Okay. And make sure that if you're going to date somebody from social media or online, that you maybe use that as a way to meet, but then after that, that's it. Don't try to work out major issues in a relationship via text message. Learn how to work them out face to face, eye contact, touching one another, looking in each other's eyes. And if you can't do that, call me, because I will walk you through it. I will help you do it. And we will learn together how to be human and continue all of the beauty of humanity, how to continue all those beautiful qualities in relationships despite what social media is doing or trying to do to intimacy and relationships, right? Seekingarrangements.com. Sorry, guys. Not for me. That is the anti relationship counselor website. Let's just take all the intimacy and all the humanity out of it. Let's treat each other like objects and just pay for a service for what we need. I see upfront, honest relationships. No, it might be upfront and honest, but it's not a real relationship. It's an exchange of services. Don't make any mistake. And in real relationships, there are no exchanging of services. Everything is done because of love and and caring. Big difference. Big difference. Conclusion. What is the conclusion of today's Liz Live show? Conclusion is, we're up against a lot. America, world. We are holding on to, for dear life, the strings of relationships, the strings of humanity, emotionality, human connection. We're holding on for dear life so that they do not escape us. And our biggest competitor in the relationship ring undoubtedly is technology. No question about it. No question about it. And we have to learn how to deal with this opponent and always protect the virtues of humanity, of beauty, inner beauty, of life, of growth, of human evolvement, of the soul. We always are fighting to maintain that integrity of the human heart. And we cannot let technology get the best of us. And we have to talk about it. We have to teach our children about it. And we have to make sure that we implement our own boundaries with it so as we do not get carried away to the point where we are a bunch of walking robots with human beating hearts that see relationships as an exchange of services. Because God help us the day that happens. We're done. We're done. We're done. We're done. That'll be the end of humanity. So, anyway, deep subject. Deep subject. But there are good stories that come from online dating. I'm aware of that. I know that there's happy endings from that. And I don't mean to belittle any of that. And I'm happy to hear of that. And I know that in some ways, it's the only way people feel that they can meet in today's busy world, which is another show. But if you're looking to meet people and online dating hasn't brought you a lot of luck, what I always say is if you're single and you want to meet somebody, tell everyone you know that you're single and you want to meet somebody, because everybody knows somebody who knows somebody that's looking to meet somebody. So tell your friends in passing, tell people at your, sport games or at your community groups or your synagogue or your church or your family dinners, and say, hey, I'm lonely. I want to date. I really want to meet someone. Does anybody know somebody who's single? Can you introduce me? And join groups that are, for the things that you're interested in. So, like, for example, take a language class, take that you're interested in, because you're going to meet someone with a similar interest right there, right? A cooking class, an exercise class, a weightlifting class, an art class, whatever you're interested in, go that route, get yourself out into the world and talk about, you're looking. That's all you need to do. You don't need to slut yourself and prostitute yourself out on social media. I promise you. You really don't. That's an illusion that social media wants you to believe so that you keep using it, and all these people can make money off of your insecurities. And that's what they're doing. Okay. So if you want some more ideas, you can always reach out to me, set up a session. But if you haven't had much luck with online dating, I think this is a very important show for you to watch. And I think you need to change your strategy, because online dating is more than likely not going to bring you the relationship that you're looking for in most cases. Okay. Thank you for watching Liz Live. I hope this was helpful. I think it's important to talk about. And I always want to help people and talk about things that are helpful on my show. I appreciate everybody watching and tuning in this morning. Wednesday night, I'll be back live on YouTube at 8 p.m. with an exciting show, of which I'm not going to tell you just yet what it's going to be, but it's going to be interesting, and I can't wait to see all of you here for that live at 8 p.m. I love you all. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the Elizabeth 126 to my YouTube channel. It's right there. You can just click it, get your friends to sign up so that you get notifications for whenever I put up my shows or information that are good for you, your relationships, and your mental health. Be well, my friends. And thank you again for watching Liz Live.